Babies develop a feed, play, sleep pattern quite naturally. It doesn't have to be forced. They have a feed, they build up their supplies, their energy, their fuel. They stay awake for a little while, which we call their playtime, and then they go off to sleep because they've run out of energy. And they wake and they're hungry and ready to refuel. So it's not something that we have to impose, it's something that naturally evolves. Sometimes though we can miss the opportunity of when it's the right time for these events to occur, and it can become difficult for the baby and for the parents. So after a feed time is usually under an hour. It's very rarely does a baby need to feed more than an hour for a nutritious feed. In fact, a breastfed baby takes most of its volume at the beginning of the feed. So it would be realistic to say you could feed them for a while, but once it gets beyond an hour, they're using up energy or they're using you as a dummy. So it's time for them to have some wake-up time because they have their feed, and they might wake up after their feed for a very short period of time and then start to show you those little tired signs. They might get a bit irritable, whatever it is that your baby does, and then it's time for their sleep. But where the difficulty can arise is when your baby has had their feed, they've had their little bit of wake time, they've got a little bit tired, and we've missed the tired signs, and then they start to become overtired. And when they're overtired, they become quite active, and so they don't look like they're ready for sleep. And then we let them be awake, or allow them to be awake for a longer period of time than their body is capable of. They become increasingly overtired, they become irritable, they grizzle, they cry, they're not going to sleep because they're overtired, and it becomes a very, very difficult situation for everybody. So the ideal is to think about, if you can't see those tired signs, think about how long has your baby been awake. Very rarely does a baby need to feed for more than an hour. If they've been trying to feed for more than an hour, it's quite possible that they're using you as a dummy if they're breastfed. So take them off the breast, give them a bit of a wake time, could be a couple minutes, could be 20 minutes. But if their baby, a tiny baby in that first 3 to 4 months, has fed for about an hour or less than an hour, but in total, including their feed time, they've been at for an hour and a half, 2 hours, they will be really, really tired. And really, ideally, you can't imagine their bodies being able to continue in a happy, calm state when they're overtired after that period of time. Think about how long your baby's been awake after their feed. Think about that total awake time and try and use, about an hour and a half around that period of time. You would expect your baby would be ready to go back off to sleep. Sometimes after a 20-minute feed, tiny babies can fall back to sleep and it's completely normal. So they've really only been awake for 25 minutes in total. But over time, that period of time becomes a bit longer too. So if your baby is awake for about an hour and a half when they're only a month or 2 months of age, it's highly likely they're going to become quite irritable and overtired. If by about 4 months they wake up, they have their feed, and their total wake time is about an hour and a half, that's about reasonable. So you have to be flexible. Don't fix it, but just remember that they will run out of energy when they're little, and so they will need to be offered the opportunity of going off to sleep because they often will not initiate it for themselves. So they need your help to help them go off to sleep, to get ready for sleep time in a calm, quiet place where they can tune down and go to sleep.